very important to international brands in the world that we live in today. Consumers are very interested to know where the brand comes from, where it's distilled, and because we distill everything here at the Shed Distillery, Drumshanbo Gunpowder Irish Gin, Sausage Tree Pure Irish Vodka, and our Drumshanbo Single Pot Still Irish Whiskey, we want to show consumers, both here and visitors from overseas, where it's made. So we have a very interesting experience for consumers to enjoy when they come here.
Yeah.
They'll go on what we call the curious journey, which is the journey that I've been on in creating these brands. So they'll get to see the whole story behind our Drumshanbo Gunpowder Irish Gin, how we brought that brand together with the botanicals and how we distill it here and so on. And the same with our Single Pot Still Irish Whiskey, Drumshanbo, the whole story behind that. And it'll hopefully be a very enjoyable experience. And then they'll end up here in the Honey Badger Bar, which is a pretty impressive site, which is a glass house with many of the botanicals that are in our brands that are actually growing here as well.
Yeah, it's a really interesting environment, and clearly taking its cues from many of the places that you visited around the world. It's got a mixture of an Asian feel, there's some Irish touches here too.
Yeah, it's we brought a bit of everything from around the world here to Drumshanbo, and obviously it is in rural Ireland, so it's inherently Irish, but our brands are, I suppose, inspired by many of my journeys around the world, particularly Drumshanbo Gunpowder Irish Gin. It should be a very interesting place for people to visit. The complexity and the excellence in the way we distill our brands.
Yeah. I've just encountered the tour myself as well, and obviously a lot of emphasis placed on the new whiskey. So maybe we'll begin with that in terms of the brand side. What are your aspirations for the new Drumshanbo Single Pot Still Whiskey, and clearly in a very complex and competitive space in terms of Irish whiskies overall? How do you make that stand out?
Yeah, well, our Drumshanbo Single Pot Still Irish Whiskey, which we're very proud of, is it's distilled with malted barley, unmalted barley, and Irish oaks, and it's in a segment that is growing rapidly, led by Redbreast and Green Spot and Yellow Spot, and Irish distillers are doing a really excellent job in opening up a subcategory, a premium subcategory within Irish whiskey. I think what's really important with this brand is that we distill every drop here at the distillery. It's all done by hand, it's triple distilled. It has Irish oats, which is unique. It comes on the new geographic indicator produced by the government here. And we age in bourbon casks, bourbon ones, which we take in from Jim Beam, and Oloroso casks from sherry. So it's a very unique Irish whiskey, but the story is true and authentic, and it's the first whiskey, believe it or not, in the province of Connacht to be distilled in over 105 years. So it's quite historic. And then it's presented in a very unique package to reflect the story behind the brand.
Yeah, and you were beginning, I understand, with a 5-year-old, and
yes,
working from there up. What have you planned in terms of the next evolution of the brand overall?
Yeah,
what can you tell us about it?
Well, we do our best. I mean, what we've learned is that for single pot still, it really needs to be 5 years of age in order to be at the quality and the level commensurate with our aspirations. So that was the first thing we've learned. In terms of where we go from here, I mean, this is basically sold out, to be honest, everywhere it's gone. So we're going to struggle to keep it in supply in the short term, but we will do our best. We will have some special expressions around special cask finishes. So we'll have, whether it's Marsala or it's sherry or it's Pinot Noir or whatever, we will have some of those. Part of our hallmark is we don't add any colour. It's non-chill filtered. So already it's generating a lot of interest, and in travel retail I suspect it will do very, very well for those people looking for something different and exclusive.
Yeah, for sure. Now, travel retail clearly across the portfolio is an important sector. Maybe just tell us in terms of how you aim to, and what the role is of that channel in building brands overall, but also in particular the whiskey now going forward.
I think travel retail is a great shop window for all brands. It's a great opportunity to showcase your brand for first-time purchases. If I go back to my history in the business, I used to work in Bailey's and with other companies along the way. Gift giving is a huge part of what happens. So a brand is purchased, it's given as a gift, and all of a sudden you have another consumer on your brand. So travel retail is a crucial part of building any global brand.
Yeah.
So for us, it'll continue to be a very important area. Drumshanbo Gunpowder Irish Gin has performed exceptionally well in travel retail. It has really exceeded all our expectations. It's the #1 selling SKU in Irish airports, and doing well right across the world.
Just tell us a little bit about the next evolution then of Gunpowder Gin. Clearly a success story. Also in export, I believe you're in around 50 countries
Yes.
now. Travel retail plays its part in that. What's the next stage in the evolution, and perhaps in terms of some of the special items that you've been doing, which I know in collaboration, for example, with ARI have been quite successful?
Yes, I mean, it's still a very, very young brand. So we're only in the formative stages of the brand, so we've a long way to go. Probably our biggest priority is to build our footprint, our distribution in travel retail and elsewhere around the world, so people can get to experience the brand. So we have a lot of work to do in that area. In terms of travel retail, we have done some special packaging and so on with ARI, including the ceramic and special glass packs and so on and so forth. We continue to do that and bring out different editions and different variations of that, but staying true to the core brand and not compromising the brand itself and not diluting the brand. So I think it's important that we continue to stimulate that market and work very closely with our partners in travel retail around the world. But I'd say it's very early days and the brand is just starting.
Yeah, I mean, is there more you'd like to see perhaps from the retailer side in terms of understanding how it's different, how they present it in store, and in terms of relationships and partnerships?
Well, I think probably the key thing we've learned with the brand is if you put effort behind this brand, it returns sales immediately. It's an instant success. So visibility is the key for this brand. Being in the hot spots in the various stores, being on the right shelf with the right lighting and so on, and it responds. From the Mr. Retailer's point of view, it will push up the weighted average spend because we are a premium, super premium brand. So if people are just going to buy one bottle of gin, well, let it be Drumshanbo Gunpowder because your margin's going to be higher, your weighted average spend is going to be up, and we're very keen to play in that space. Yeah,
and in terms of that premium gin category, you see it having much more in terms of legs. Clearly it's been a powerhouse category for the last number of years. Where do you see it evolving and going to?
Well, what seems to be happening at the moment, particularly in some of our key European markets and in the US, is that the consumer seems to be getting behind what I would call a smaller basket of premium, super premium gins.
Yeah.
So they seem to be less likely to migrate to a whole variety of brands, and they're getting behind certain brands that they see as winners, and maybe Mr. Retailer is doing the same, and they're growing strongly. So thankfully we are in that list, we're on that list, we want to maintain our presence on that list and continue to grow. So I think premium, super premium gin, particularly in travel retail, has a long way to go in terms of growth, but it probably will be a smaller number of brands offering real strong consumer propositions.
Yeah. Do you see the crisis that we're going through at the moment as having an impact on, how people consume, how people drink, and in turn how you treat the categories that you're operating in?
Yes, we're seeing changes every day. I think what we're seeing is Mr. Retailer, say in the domestic market, is saying, well, what are the winning brands? Okay, this is the list of the winning brands in all categories, and they're backing the winners, and they're kind of backing away from brands that maybe are hard to sell. So I think we see consolidation on the shelf, maybe a smaller selection of brands, and Mr. Retailer and also Mr. Importer getting behind those brands and pushing them because they know that during this very difficult time that they work as opposed to spending time on something that's going to be a tough sell. That's probably the biggest change I've seen. The consumer appears to be trading up at home. If they're not going out to the bars and hotels and restaurants as much, well, if we're going to have a gin, well, let it be a good one, and let me have a nice experience at home. And I think that's true across whiskey and rum and tequila as well. And we're seeing that in all markets. Yeah. They're spending less time in the store, so your proposition has to be strong. They're spending a lot of time online, and that's a whole different ecosystem. So there's an awful lot of change happening right now, and we're doing our best to stay on it. But it's every time we think we're on it, it's moved on again.
Yeah, and are you trying to respond to some of those new dynamics, whether it be online or people spending less time in store, in how you merchandise, market, present, engage?
Yes, we are, and we're trying to work more closely with our retailers and e-commerce friends and partners we know that if we are presented in a certain format and in a certain way, that our brand responds immediately to it's an instant sale. But it needs to be positioned in a certain way. We're also working very hard on social media and digital marketing, and that's working very well for us. We're trying to do that in a very interesting and engaging way.
Right, okay. Tell us a little bit about your aspirations for Sausage Tree Vodka, perhaps the least heralded perhaps until now, or perhaps that's just me saying that, but what are your hopes for it?
We're very excited about it. We've been so busy on Drumshanbo Gunpowder Irish Gin and our whiskey, our Drumshanbo Single Pot Still Irish Whiskey, that our Sausage Tree Pure Irish Vodka, we haven't talked so much about it. But in 2021, we're going to put a big push behind it.
Okay.
We'll be launched in the United States. It will be launched in a number of other European markets. It's doing really well. We're making a number of enhancements to its packaging in terms of value-added packaging and so on. So it has a very important role to play, and I think you'll see a lot more of the brand certainly over the next 18 to 24 months.
Right, okay. Just in terms of geographies, we were talking about Gunpowder Gin having roughly 50 export markets and clearly a big presence in travel retail. Where's next in terms of the boundaries that you need to break down by territory, in terms of your aspirations for the sector as a whole? I suppose both on the gin side and the whiskey side in particular.
Well, from Drumshanbo Gunpowder Irish Gin, I mean, we're still, as I keep saying, I suppose we're still a relatively modest brand. We're growing quickly. I think we want to make sure that we, in the markets, our core markets like the US, UK, France, Ireland and continental Europe, that we continue to grow those, and we have so much to do there in terms of distribution and just more presence. We see a big opportunity in Asia. Our brand, where it is distributed in Asia, does particularly well. We're getting a great response to the brand, but I think, I was around in the formative days of Bailey's, and I see this as like just the beginning of the journey.
Right, yeah. What factors and dynamics do you think will drive the growth of your business going forward? From the consumer awareness side to the economic landscape side, which of course is difficult right now. How do you see the whole firmament and landscape for your brands now and in the next couple of years?
It's a great question. I think probably the first thing is the brands themselves. That we are providing our consumers with really remarkable brands that have, a really interesting story, that are credible, that are exciting, that are engaging. That's the first job to do, because the brand, at the end of the day, is king, and that drives everything. Assuming that we do all of that well and continue to do that well, which I think we've done a good job with the amazing team that we have, by the way, at the Shed Distillery, because I'm just one guy. Then I think it's about just accelerating our footprint in the various markets, making sure we can continue to innovate and stimulate consumers, and just grow distribution. I mean, we have a long way to go. So many places around the world that you just don't find our brands because they don't know about them yet, but we know when they do find them, whether it be in Asia, South America, or in parts of the old former Eastern Europe, that they love it. A great example is the controlled states in the US. The various provinces of Canada, which is primarily controlled by the government, we're doing particularly well. So the brand goes in, there's relatively low awareness, and the brand pulls immediately. So there's magic in the brand. There's a little bit of magic about our brand. And then we get some traction, then we do more promotion, and then suddenly we start to build momentum. Yeah. So it's an instant success. A great example would be Hong Kong Airport. Went into Hong Kong Airport. We're not in Hong Kong domestic. We're not in China. The minute it goes on the shelf in Hong Kong Airport, it sells. Okay. So there's a huge amount of impulse purchase and interest in the brand from the get-go.
Does that speak, I suppose, to the type of consumer that's traveling, that's probably curious, perhaps has slightly more to spend traditionally?
It does, and I think what the magic about this brand, it's immediately engaging. And when they get under the wrapper and get under the brand and they taste it and the quality and the story, it just intrigues them and they come back for more.
Yeah, it's harder to tell that story in this environment, isn't it? That's perhaps one of the only issues going forward for next year at least, or
it is hard
to see things change.
Yeah, it is hard, and that's why you have to work even harder, and not being able to get in front of people is very difficult.
Yeah.
But we just have to, we were fortunate in that we had momentum before COVID. If you're starting off from scratch now, it's very difficult.
Yeah, and there are a number of distilleries, as you know, around Ireland trying to do that, and
that
makes it very hard to
penetrate. It's very tough for them, and we need more, I think we need a lot more support from the government to acknowledge that, and when COVID does end, that those starting new brands get more support, and I think more respect from the Irish government to help them get their brands airborne and global. And you need a strong home base in order to do that.
Yeah, and just in terms of distribution, you mentioned, I mean, really in terms of expanding that, is that a lot about leather on the road and getting people out in front of potential distributors or partners, or is there more to it?
No, it is really, and it's also about telling our success story as well to people, so that they believe. You know, it's a bit like a domino effect. You have to prove that it works in order to get distribution in some of these big retailers, and once you can prove it's worked in a number of them, the others are more likely to follow you.
Yeah, for sure. Now, you mentioned consolidation, always an interesting subject in the drinks industry, as you know, and of course a success story, but still a relatively fledgling one like yourself will clearly have some of the big players looking on and eyeing that success with interest, especially now you've got this fantastic visitor centre. What's the future hold? Are you open to approaches from the big guys? What do you think the longer term plan will be?
I'm very open with my team about this, and we're having fun, we're having success. I think part of the magic of our success is that we're not part of a multinational. We're able to perform at a very high level with the incredibly resourceful team that we have. Long may it continue. We've no intentions. In fact, all our partners internationally are family businesses. They're all very similar to ourselves. Some of them are intergenerational, and I think we proved that you don't have to be part of a multinational to be successful on the global stage. But you know, so and interestingly, in Germany, we're the #1 drinks company in Germany. They have 52% market share. They are significantly larger than the multinationals. I think it was a great footprint in Germany. In the States, we're a very substantial company, and so on. So yeah, we're having fun, and we're growing. I just want to pay tribute to the team, who are really, they are extraordinary. And they're very young and youthful and dynamic, and from all walks of life, doing extraordinary things every day.
You've done some amazing things in what's a small village, really, in Leitrim place. I know well from family ties in the past. What's been the reaction locally to what you've been doing? I'm sure there's a sense of pride also in Drumshanbo about what's taking place here.
No, that's a great question. I mean, right from the beginning when I came here first, the sense of community was very strong, and that's what attracted us here. We're actually based at a social enterprise, so this is owned by the community where we are, and we lease it from them. Very important part of our brand, very important part of our story, and going to be a very important part of our future. The other thing that is very interesting, when we speak to consumers nationally in Ireland, they have huge pride in the Shed Distillery as a nation, and a huge pride in the brand Drumshanbo Gunpowder Irish Gin. Hence why it's #1 selling SKU in the Irish airports, because people are taking that away as an expression of what the new Ireland, something that was created locally in rural Ireland at a very high level that competes with the best in the world.
Yeah, exactly, and it has international cues, clearly from the ingredients that we saw on the tour, but also rooted very much in the place.
Rooted here, but outward looking.
Yeah.
And you know, we never set out to create a local brand. We always set out to create a brand that would, what we call, remarkable, and would compete with the best that there is in the world. And, you know, last year we won the Flavier Oscar in New York. We've won many awards that really position us as competing with the best. And that's where we want to play.
Yeah, and I'm just looking ahead, if it's possible to, in these uncertain times, 3 to 5 years ahead, what would you like the consumer reaction and the status indeed of the brands within their own spaces to be as you go forward?
Well, I'd like Drumshanbo Gunpowder to be a truly global premium gin, well established, with a strong consumer base right around the world. The same for our Sausage Tree and our Drumshanbo Single Pot Still Irish Whiskey, and to be recognised as a place that for excellence, quality, and creating something really engaging and a hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah, good. Final question, we're going to be showing this video and more about the brand and the brand assets at our virtual travel retail expo, which is taking place from the 12th to the 16th of October. A message finally for the travel retailers of the world out there who either are already partners or maybe more importantly those that are not yet.
Well, to those who are already partners, thank you so much for supporting us. and we look forward to working very closely with you into 2021 and beyond. And for those that we're not doing business with, obviously we would love to do business with you, and I can assure you that we will partner with you and we'll support you all the way to support your business. And I just want to wish everybody well in these challenging times. COVID will end, and we will be there working with you when it's over.
PJ Rigney, many thanks for your time at this wonderful distillery and visitor centre. Thank you again.
Thank you very much.